Welcome to this episode of Ask the Guitar Coach, the only podcast where you get answers to all your guitar-related questions. If you're interested in developing your guitar skills and reaching your music goals, please send me an email at the email address ioannis@ioannis.org. That is IOANNIS at IOANNIS.org, so that I can let you know about all the different packages of elite guitar coaching and how you can get private coaching by me. Without further ado, let's go to our question for the day. I think I use a lot of strength when I'm playing, and after a while my left hand starts hurting. This is a very usual problem for very many guitar players, especially self-taught guitar players, but definitely not only self-taught players, because many guitar teachers don't really pay attention to the left hand technique of their students, unfortunately, so they end up creating problems like that. So if you are putting way too much pressure on your left hand, this is usually something that happened from when you first started playing, because you were not efficient at the time, so you tried to compensate for your inefficiency with more strength, with brute force. And then the problem with that is that this got programmed in your brain, and now you're using this brute force all the time. This is obviously not a good idea, because once you start doing that, your hands will get tired very, very easily, and this is a problem not only with stamina, but even it makes it much more likely for you to get injured with your guitar playing. So definitely it's something that should be dealt with. Let's see if I can help you with that. There are two things to take into account when you're trying to do that. The first thing is where you're pressing the note. Now, when someone is first starting out guitar, he says, okay, this is the 5th fret, so this is the previous fret, this is the next fret. It makes sense if I try to press in the middle. And it does sound logical, however, it's not true. Because of the use of leverage, you want to play as close to the fret as possible. So if you're here on the 5th fret and you're playing on the 4th string right here, you don't want to be in the middle, okay? You don't want to be left, you want to be as close as possible on the little fret wire at the end of the 5th fret, so here. So this is where you want to be playing, not in the middle. Once you fix that and you program your playing not to be in the middle of the fret but towards the end of the fret, you're going to need much less pressure to get a good sound. Now, if you do that, the next thing to do is to start lessening the pressure. And the way to do that, I will need your attention now, is very, very simple. You start lessening the pressure to the point where the note, it doesn't really sound. So if this is the note, I will start lessening the pressure now. So now the note is dead. I'm still here, I'm still pressing, but I'm pressing too lightly, it doesn't sound. So I will press a little bit more right now. This is the minimum amount of tension needed to make this note sound. So I'm playing, I make sure I put my finger in the right position, okay? I put very little pressure, start playing, nothing sounds, like the note is not clear. I put more pressure, and now it sounds. And I try to make a mental note on how much pressure this takes, how much force I need to use. So as I'm playing that, I'm using the minimum force. If I start to use less force, the notes are going to be deadened. Let's see. Yeah, it doesn't sound clean. It dies very quickly. Maybe I could use a little bit less force on the 4th finger. Now it's perfect. Okay? So this is how you develop that. So is there a practical way to incorporate this in any kind of your practice routine and kind of test it yourself? Well, I'll tell you what I use. I use a scalloped guitar. So we've talked before in this channel about scalloped guitars where the wood is scalloped away from the frets. This is something that comes from old school acoustic instruments like lutes and things like that. And then it's become popular again by Ritchie Blackmore and Yngwie Malmsteen mostly. Even a little bit by Steve Vai, because he has the highest frets of his guitar scalloped as well. So by using a scalloped guitar, I take the problem that I have, that I need to monitor how much pressure I'm putting, and I make it a problem for the guitar, which means because there is no wood under where I'm playing, and I'm basically playing on the air, if I press too hard, the string goes out of tune. So immediately I have an audio feedback that I'm doing something wrong, and I've seen that players that have been playing with way too much force for several years, once you give them a scalloped guitar and they start practicing with it, after a few hours, their playing just becomes normal because now they can hear if they're pressing too strong, and they can hear it because now the note is out of tune. So they self-correct, not because the coach told them, but because they want to sound good. And it's one of a very smart way to correct this problem. So let's go to the final reason why this might be happening, why you might be playing too strong and you might be cramping up. And this is general playing stress, which means if you are very stressed about what you're going to be playing, if you feel not at ease at the playing situation, but also with what you're going to be playing, it's very possible that you're going to be using more strength to overcompensate, okay? And this can create this kind of problem. So what can you do in this situation? The best approach is extreme preparation. So if you're supposed to play a piece of music, instead of practicing it for 3 hours, practice it for 10 hours so that you know it by heart. You can play it in a much higher speed than that required, and that you really have it under your belt, this specific piece of music. If you're going to be playing at a specific situation, is it a jam session at a specific club or something like that, try to be there from before, test out the equipment, see if you can play there and familiarize yourself with the environment. So basically, these are all mechanisms in which you minimize risk of something going wrong, and by minimizing risk, you minimize your own stress. And by minimizing your stress, you minimize the stress response, which is, putting way too much force on the fingers. So this doesn't have to do with preparation for guitar playing, it has to do with you being familiar with the surroundings and know where everything is, like, know the people who are around there so you don't feel threatened by them, know where is the amplifier, know how the amplifier is going to sound, making sure that your guitar is in tune, like general preparation things that lessen the stress of you worrying that something might go wrong. So there you have it. I hope this video was helpful, and I'm looking forward to seeing you on the next episode of Ask the Guitar Coach. Until then, keep sending me your questions and I'll make sure I answer them in one of the future videos. Bye bye.